Hi all, so today we'll start doing a visualization, so jumping from Illustrator and the illustration of our drawings to visualization and jumping into Photoshop itself. So what we're going to do is going to start actually going on from the top view and start it on the terrain and simulate that kind of evocative environment that your architecture design might be involved in, and then we'll jump into an elevation and just do the same thing with cutouts into Photoshop. So let's start with using actually the same white renders that we had from Rhino, and we'll pursue to Photoshop into try to insert it into to map to an image that actually is kind of similar to our terrain or close enough. So the first problem that you will face and encounter, even with near maps, and even if I'll go into the near maps and show you what we can get from extracting in when you log in, and obviously hopefully you already have your account. You log into near maps and go to map browser, and then you search your site view and your area view, and not everything is covered in near maps. That's the first thing you need to notice, and it's easier to notice because when you zoom out, the areas that are darker are not covered by near maps, so the lighter ones are. And actually your site is around here, I believe, so it's not covered. But if you look at kind of vegetation that there is on the site, you can, if it's not the exact site, you can go and go try to get close enough in the region and get into an area that's actually similar to your vegetation. So this would be the case. It's more or less the same site. Once you extract this image, you'll start seeing still pixels, and this is like 5 meters. So, and if your let's say even if your element is going to be 10 meters, and it's going to be very small. So it depends on the scale that you want to represent, and that's what we are going to do. So I've extracted. Again, if you want to extract, you go here, save the current definition, and it will save you into a file, which I already previously done. So jumping into Photoshop, that's the file that we had there previously. So as you can see, this is okay if you are going to put at this scale, but you might lose information. So if your project is going to be around this area and is going to be 10 meters, which is more or less like this, you might lose any information on what the project might be. So it depends on what the context that you want to place in. If the case you cannot place it because it will be too small to visualize the top view, and your project will be a dot. So remember that you always want to focus on your project. So what I would recommend is going to Google and search again detailed terrains, and start looking for beach or sand terrains, and these things start pop up, and they are high definition. So the way to search in is actually you put something on detailed terrain, you search images, but then on the tools here you select large. So all the sizes that will pop up, it will have this high, as you can see, high definition, like 5,000 pixels by 345 pixels. So that's what we want to actually try to get, high definition images. And once you click on those, once you select large, all of these are large files. So this still has this pathway, which we don't want. So we'll need to manipulate the image, but it could be fast. So jumping into Photoshop. So if you are not happy with this, because if let's say your file is going to be 5 meters, and again, you have the rulers, and the rulers, you know what it is. If it's going to be a 1 to 100 map, and this is not a 1 to 100 because you see the size of a tree. So this is more or less 4 or 5 meters already wide. You see the road, that's definitely 2 or 3 meters here. So if your project is going to be very, very small in this case. So if you place it here, let's say, overlay the image, let's say, file, I can actually go to the top view, go select this view. I'm going to select it all just for the case and show you how how small it would be. Here, maps, and go paste it here, Control V, Control C. So if the image is too large, then what you can do is go to the here to the layers, and if you cannot find layers, you go to Window and turn on layers. It will start. You can see the layer where so we have the background, which is our near maps, and this layer that we just pop in. What we can turn on is here. You'll see the transformers, so you can also see show transformer controls here on the top. So that allows you to bring in the image at size. So this is not the ideal way because it might not come up. Always press Shift in order not to, don't press Shift actually, so it's different than Illustrator. If you don't press Shift, it won't, it will scale down proportionally. So you know that, I know that this is more or less 10 meters, so it's kind of small in this kind of area. So actually I want to zoom in into this photo. So what I'm going to get in is, you start to use the same image, and go to the aerial photo and start, place it here, which already offers exactly the same size, but it's already far more informative versus this one, where let's go back again, and as you can see, if I would want to zoom in into this area, and if this would be the size of my project, if I want to zoom in, to the area, you will start seeing all the pixelated versus my image that's actually not that pixelated. So this would be a bad output. So what we want to do is to have the same kind of definition, and even like this area, you can see it's definitely smooth and everything. So we already brought it in. At the moment we have two elements. I'm going to start to, as the same in Illustrator, we just the toolbars are on the left and the edit bars are going to be on the right. You can always drag and drop everything here. Color swords, gradients that are here. You have, if you don't find anything, like for example the text never pops up, but you can go into character styles or character, and then it will start popping up and populating this area. So it's always around here. So I'm going to turn off the layer for now and start. Basically what I want to do is get rid of this pathway, and for that there's this very convenient tool, which is the clone stamp. Basically it stamps whatever is on the side and stamps over this, as you can start seeing, and start simulating. I want to make all this pathway to disappear. So you'll see there's a forbidden sign there already. That's because I'm using the background. I locked the background, so I need to unlock it now. It allows me to make that copy and paste. So that's what we'll do. And so once you click on the clone, it will ask you, basically it wants to ask you what point, and if you press Alt or Option, it will give you a kind of a site, a cursor, that you can choose where you want to extract from your image. You click there, and then what you'll start seeing is that you start populating here. So there's the opacity here on the top. I'm going to increase it. I don't make it 100% because it allows it. So it basically now is copying this area here, copying it to that. So that's what we want to do, and see how much we can dissimulate basically. And obviously you can always choose other area. So you again press the Alt key and say, okay, there's these people here. Actually, I want to start copying from here and start placing this area here. So now you'll start seeing that it's already dissimulated. You can do the same thing from the other side if you want. It's important to see what are the interesting patterns that you can extract, and in order to start hiding whatever needs to be hidden. Obviously now I copied that area, so I don't want to do this. In order to undo, we can Control Z, but if there's too many undos, maybe it's locked. So it's up to you, either that, or you go to the window and go to Actions, or History actually, and all the history, what you've done on your file is here. So you can erase whatever you did, and you can just select that and drag and drop to the, and basically it goes back to the beginning. So now I'm a bit more confident, so I'll go and use 100% and copy from this side, which seems a bit more appropriate. So let's go. You can also change the size of this brush, basically. And as you can see, it starts to populate according to the rest of the area. And again, a very fast editing tool, but it will start copying what's around it. And in this case, since we have this kind of manipulation here, I'm going to use it. I didn't like that area here, so I'm going to disguise it. And yeah, copy this one to there. And now we have more or less, you can already see that's very disguised area. So you barely can see the, obviously if you zoom in, you start seeing probably some elements, especially when the patterns are not well done. But you can see that now we already have a very convincing area that that allows you to place something. So the next step, so I'm happy with this. So the next step is going to go to the layer and lock this layer. So you can click here on the lock and it will lock. So nothing you can do now, it's going to be applied. You select on the top layer now to be active and make it pop up. So what we want to do, I want to place my area, my project around, let's say, need to be smart, obviously. So let's disguise what there's this kind of pathways. So let's use them to bring into my project. And also at the same time, I'm disguising the editing that I did. So it's a two-in-one kind of a situation. So I'll place it there. But for now, the first thing I need to do is get these elements around and extract those things. So there's a few ways of doing that. The tools is good. Also there's the magnetic lasso, and I'll start showing you the difference. It's always go here, it's always the tolerance in this case. That means it's similar to the clone, but you select a pixel here and it will generate that kind of that same color with 30% tolerance. So that's basically, that's what it does. So obviously it will start erasing all these areas. So I don't want that because this is too similar. That's basically trying to erase all my projects. So if I see 0 tolerance and click it again, you see that's always too short, so it doesn't really work. So something in between would allow you, but it's a kind of a trial and error kind of situation. So this starts going, it starts to erase all that. So I'm going to do that, click delete. And now we already see that that this element is here. So this is still selected. In order to deselect, you can go right-click, click here, and deselect, and it starts. Okay, already started to be implanted, but still you have more areas there to cut off, right? So we need to zoom and place those elements here. We would like to stay with the shadow, but I don't think it will be possible. So what we'll do again, if you can try again with the tool, but again, it starts already with 10, it doesn't really allow you. So the next step is going to use the lasso tool. The lasso tool basically crops whatever you want. And there's two modes. This one is a free form, so it allows, it's basically as you want from your mouse. And I'm going to do, and you can go out of the image, that's not a problem. And once you cross it, it will select. Actually, so now if I delete, obviously it selects the inside, and what we want to do actually is select the outside of that white image. Remember that we are only using the layer 1, so that's our image. So if in this case, if you want to select everything else, you go to select, inverse, and it deletes everything else that's outside of that pathway. So this is still very difficult to get. The polygonal tool is kind of drawing polylines, which allows you a bit more control, but still it's kind of a tricky area to go in. Again, when the dot pops up, it's the closing point. Again, select, inverse, and delete. So we are getting closer and closer, but there's another way, which is the magnetic lasso tool, and here's the same thing. You see is asking how many, basically the contrast that you want to see. So it's going to ask, it just snaps into that darker area. So obviously, so be careful, it needs to be still close around to that area, but it gives you, especially when there's closer areas, to kind of model. And this goes here. So there you go. Oops, I didn't close it, but so now I'll go select, inverse again, and delete. So it starts popping up again. You can do it as many times as you want and more accurate. So once you zoom in, obviously you'll get more accuracy, and that's what I'll recommend you to do. Just for the case, I'll just try to avoid the big mistakes, but please be accurate on this. And in this case, I really want to select the inside, so I just inverse that. So here I'm going to go onto this area, and again select here and go slowly until the point pops up, and then delete. And one more here just to get rid of these two, and delete. As well, the floor pen again is space, as always in Adobe, and yeah. And delete. And this last part here, go into, you see that is already giving me that, so I don't want it, so I please escape to get out. If you want to add more points, so the contrast is, if you want to decrease the contrast, so I'm going to put now 5%, because this gray and this white is very, very similar, and the frequency is the number of points that you want to put in. So if I put 70, you'll it will start drawing more points, so there will be a higher accuracy here, as you can see. All right, so this is one way of editing the image. And delete. And now we zoom out and start seeing. So you must be aware which kind of a condition your image is going to be. So we don't have the element. I'll leave these people because we always need people to populate. So now we have already this image placed here, the top view. But again, we are still going to add some elements here. I always tend to, you can manipulate this image by adding other effects, which will go in further ahead. But at the moment, I'm just happy with this, and I never use 100% of opacity, just because it allows you to merge with the background. And I'm just putting, I don't make it transparent, obviously, but I'll start having around, depends, 91 or maybe 95. So it just allows you to embed a bit of the color in into the image. And now after this, so we already have that one. What the next point is that we need to bring in, and I'm going to lock this one as well, is to start having I'm going to turn off this layer. I'm going to start bringing in textures to this part. So in this to bring textures, there's one key element here. If you Google, there's many sites as we referred before, but even if you Google people silhouette PNG, which is a format that allows transparency in Photoshop, you can go to images, and has many people from top or elements. In this case, what we are going to do is actually want textures, and I think the key word here is going to be seamless. Seamless textures means that this end and that end fit together, so there's a continuity. It doesn't look like tiling, it's just continuous, those textures. So seamless, in this case, I'll use a wood plank, but again, if you want to have high-res textures, again, you use large size. You can see these ones are already 2400, but don't use too large, otherwise, depends on the distance, because it will make your file too big. So maybe medium size, and obviously it will search medium size. So once you select this image, you can go through here and see, okay, 500, 300 might be good enough, depending on, you don't want anything pixelated. So I already downloaded one, and which I'm going to show you, which is Timba. So this is the one I downloaded, and I'm going to actually transport it to my image now. So I selected all, or Control C, and you go back to, which was photography, I believe. Yep, and Control V. So you see, every time you add something into Photoshop, it creates another layer and that image. And again, if I move this image, it's going to be on top because it's on top of that. But if you move it, again, the same thing as the Illustrator, right? So no difference whatsoever. In this case, we do want it on top. And another thing I'm going to do is File, Save As, Save As, and in this case, save in my computer. And Arial site plan, that's what I'm going to save, and press save. Okay, so what I'm going to do is going to make this plank. So I'm happy with the planks actually, because the width of the planks is important, so you cannot actually have too large of a width, but I'm going to make the planks to be rotated this way, to give a more horizontal, like longitudinal kind of legibility to the drawing. So what we are going to do now is to place them on top of our image, basically. And I'll zoom into, because this will need to be precise, because this is going to be what your image is going to be about. So you don't see any pixels, so it's fine. Once you select that image, you can basically cover it all. Either, just by dragging, or if you press Shift, in this case is opposite to Illustrator, it just dimensions. In this case it's fine. Still the pixels are not really perceptible, and remember that we'll be zooming out, so that's not really a problem. So now I'm going to apply this to my top view, and for that I need to start seeing what's on the back. Remember, I locked it like this. I can only choose what's my layer of the texture. So I'm going to again make it as close as you can for the size of our project. And I always forget to press Shift, and I do now. And starting, you can either use this kind of definition, okay, if you are happy, so I'll align it through down here and start cropping the rest of the layer. So what is interesting about overlaying this is, so we have the white render, so you can start seeing that this will give you this kind of form and volume to the texture itself. So actually the layer is going to be definitely going to be transparent. But again, what we are going to do now is going to cut this layer and cut it again over the kind of sequence. And again, we use this element to start cropping up the image. And obviously I would need to be far more precise, so I'll give a second pass. And select inverse and delete. Alright, so this is almost there. I still need to go zooming in here and continuing a bit more and start polishing this area. Okay, so I think for now this is good. Also because we are going to be outside. So you can see now that we start having this kind of folding on, it gives you that kind of reading of the material and the folding onto the view. And obviously once we turn on this back view, it will start giving even more kind of more elements to look at, and you'll start to see that, okay, that's my project, that's how it's going to be implanted. And obviously it's going to be, you're not going to be printed an image, you are not going to zoom in, so that will be, this is more than enough to start having the initial kind of elements. So if you want to make this a bit more yellow, because it seems to be a bit more yellow, this area, you can go select the layer and start giving some treatments to the layer. But in this case, I think we are happy with what there is, as it is a site plan, and for now. So this is our first exercise on bringing and trying to edit things to Photoshop. So editing the image with that clone tool, and then cropping elements that we don't want, and start seeing these kind of visualizations happening into your pathway. So we'll start playing more with the next iteration, which is going to be elevations. Thank you.